The team that improved the most is obviously Origen. They weren't looking really strong in the split. They're actually looking like the best team in Europe.
Very, very impressive performance out from Niels. He actually had a KDA of 32. That's the highest KDA in LCS regular split history.
I think H2K plays so flawless. They all know what to do. They're all on the same page.
Yarnan dealt 45% of his team's damage. 0 deaths. He was never, ever caught out.
13, 0, and 12. An astounding performance.
I think their playstyle is really solid. Like, they're really good at what they do as a team.
All you need to give Huni is 1 kill and he starts rolling in. Fantastic performance so far in this split. And yeah, who's gonna stop Huni?
There's nothing that this guy cannot do.
Welcome to the European League Championship Series, broadcasting to you live from our studio in Berlin, Germany. The pressure is on as we near the midpoint of the summer split. As you can see, the crowd is rowdy and ready to go for 5 matches we have on the schedule here today. The place is packed as people were coming in a little bit earlier, waiting to take their seats for all of the action today. Very excited. Well, it's a bit chilly outside today, so good on them for waiting outside. An excited Fnatic fan. And there's Roccat lounging a bit in our chic outdoor area with Yamato giving the last of his hints to his team, and their SK Gaming setting up on stage, looking for that second win now that they finally have their hands on their very first win yesterday. I'm Evie Shock supporter here at the analyst desk to break down all of today's games with the help of Laurie Cyanide Happenen, Martin the Fish Show Lunge, and Trevor Quickshot Henry. Welcome once again, guys. Well, before we get any further, let's look at where the teams stand after yesterday's games, and we gotta zoom in on that top 3. Fnatic, they are still alone in first place, 7-0. Origen no longer undefeated since last week, and now another loss, versus Fnatic in 3rd place, and H2K in 2nd. And I think it's very, very interesting the way the standings are evolving there at the top of the tables. Trevor, you said yesterday you think that H2K might be the team with the best macro level execution that we have in the league, and honestly, we haven't seen OG tested in those waters yet.
No, we haven't really. Let's start with Origen. I think yesterday their loss to Fnatic highlighted a few maybe pick and ban mistakes, maybe some player mistakes. Their loss last week to Roccat also showed that they have troubles when they fall behind. And I think for Origen, let's also remember, this is their first time in the LCS as this 5-man team. Yes, 4 of the players have got a wealth of experience, but they still have to fix those problems on stage. And then going to H2K, I do think they're the best macro team in Europe at the moment. When they get a lead, they push it, they're aggressive, they're intelligent. They have very few weaknesses, and I definitely think H2K, when they start looking forward, Fnatic is going to be the next target on their hit list.
Yeah, I agree. H2K look fantastic, but there is one clear weakness we have seen whenever they face some of the other top teams, and that's in the early game. Because like the laning phase is not where H2K are winning the games; it's where they tend to honestly fall a little bit too far behind when they face someone like Fnatic. If it still happens,
however,
if it happens next time,
one time, the only reason, yes, they lost Origen that way, but their average gold lead at 10 minutes is actually the best in the league.
So
you just don't feel it.
That's true. That's true. But again, right now, I'm just looking at H2K and Fnatic. That's it. I'm just saying H2K versus Fnatic. I think Fnatic can beat them in the early game, and that means H2K won't get to play the style they love to play. The rest of the teams, no problem for H2K.
Yeah, I think the problem that Origen has is that they had the most flawed playstyle in a way that they just go full ham and try to kill everyone, and sometimes it backfires because they play so damn aggressive. So actually, out of these 3 teams, I see Origen the one that might drop games against the bottom teams.
All right, there we go. Well, when it comes to Fnatic and H2K, we have a big test for them next week. Of course, our game of the week will be when Fnatic plays H2K, so we'll know a bit more about how the standings will evolve after that one. But of course, we do have a bunch of games to play today. First, we're going to kick off in a few minutes with SK versus Roccat. We got Fnatic going on versus the Copenhagen Wolves, and Gambit versus Unicorns of Love. A very interesting matchup there. Gambit, 3 straight wins so far. They are 3-3. Unicorns of Love, on the other hand, also 3-3, but not looking as good.
Yeah, it's a reversal of fortunes. You know, Unicorns will have picked up a couple of wins, but now they're in that 3-game losing streak. Gambit started losing, now they're on a winning streak, and we need to see who's actually going to stabilize their performances. I think Gambit are probably the favorites coming into that matchup, but I'm definitely looking forward to watching it.
I mean, just look at Gambit yesterday. That was the first time this split, at least, we got to see a Gambit that was in control. You know, apart from one mistake in the bottom lane that resulted in 2 kills, Giants couldn't do anything. Like Cabochard got super fed, Forgiven sat back and farmed, and we got to see what Gambit wants to do and how it's not about Forgiven being the main carry. There's other members on this team here. If they can continue playing like this, Gambit will go towards the top.
Yeah, I think the problem that Gambit is going to face against UL is though that they relied on Cabochard to carry really heavily in some of their wins, and I think Chachi is a really good top laner, so I don't think Chachi is going to lose one-on-one top lane like Welb did, yeah.
Welb, yeah, we'll see what moves Chachi brings out there. We also saw some big moves yesterday in our share of LCS big plays. Here's a tweet from @DelusionalZen, tweeted, Kasing channels mad life with that hook. Why do people keep letting him have Thresh?
Oh, hang on.
Freeze with an early flash. Hook. The death sentence connect. Kasing Kaching.
Fantastic hook by Kasing. Predicts their flash almost, because I think he started casting that hook right as the flash came out. Beautiful follow-up.
Yeah, that looked like one of my Thresh solo queue games, actually.
Yeah, I believe it. Now remember to wow, it was like...
You know what, that's fair. I think that deserves a round of applause.
It does. There are actually people here. This is not like a tape or anything. That actually happened. Remember to share your show-stopping moments throughout the day by tweeting @LL Esports and using the hashtag LCSBigPlays. Now, speaking of Twitter, we're opening our guest up to you for another day of inquiries. Tweet @LL Esports with the hashtag AskCyanide, and we'll pose your questions to the former LCS jungler later today. Areas of expertise, jungling outside of the LCS, Finland, and biology. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, so fire all your shots and tweet @LL Esports, hashtag AskCyanide. We're going to bring it back, though, and look at our very first matchup of the day between SK Gaming and Roccat. Starting off on the blue side with SK Gaming's lineup, Freddy122, Sven Skaren, Fox, Candy Panda, and Rated, and their coach, Lukas Schenke. Well, SK, they're on the board. They got their very first win, but it took a lot.
It took a lot. I mean, Unicorns of Love, that game, it was very back and forth. We see basically what won SK the game, Freddy and Svensken here in the late game team fights on both Gnar and then Echo. Of course being very tanky, but also being the carries for SK, and it says a lot about what these two guys can do. I mean, just look at the amount of damage Freddy dealt. Of course, it was Frozen Mallet, Black Cleaver, Hexstring. It's a bit of a DPS Gnar. Not a full Wicked style, though, with the Hurricane. Maybe that comes today.
Yeah, definitely the case. And I think for SK, they broke their losing streak. We heard Candy Panda talking about that and how important it was. And I also think for Sven Skaren, his 7th champion in 7 games, he had a very, very good impact in the early game. Found first blood, was stealing jungle camps, high kill participation. That's the first time this split Sven has looked like the Sven that was at Worlds, the Sven that was performing so well in the spring split.
Yeah, I think one of the problems they had in that game as well, they were using Caitlyn kind of like a Vayne. Like, he was just split pushing instead of grouping early mid-game, where it's actually Caitlyn can be useful at pushing those turrets. Although he did a really good job of baiting the enemy team later on in the game.
I think we still saw some mistakes, obviously, from SK and also from Unicorns of Love, which is what we see quite often now, at least at the moment for them. They're not really performing too well. So I think SK can just look at this game and say, hey, it wasn't pretty, but we managed to win. We broke our losing streak. I mean, I've been 0-9, you've been, what, 0-7, or at least lost 7 games in a row. So getting that first win, you know, it means a lot because you get some sort of confirmation that you're not complete trash at least. And that's what you need as a team when you're losing so much.
I don't think you could compare the Fnatic losing streak.
Hey, 7 games in a row, 9 games in a row. It's the same.
I don't recall a losing streak ever
It's the same.
No, never happened. Moving on, we're gonna go across the other side of the rift. There is Roccat, SK's opponent in this one, with Steve, Jankos, Nukduk, Vander, and their new AD carry, Mr. Rawls, and of course their coach Yamato Cannon. We see strolling there behind them now. Well, yesterday, Mr. Rawls came in there. He pulled out the Corki in the very first game, a mid-game focused comp from Roccat, but just missing their power spikes.
Yeah, it was kind of weird watching Roccat play here because the comp they ran it's fairly simple what it has to do. Your AD carry gets a Trinity Force, you get 1 item on your Lulu, and you start poking and sieging away. You have Steve split pushing. Instead, as we just saw in this clip here, they started team fighting 4v5. They allowed elements to sit and farm up, and suddenly Froggen on a Vladimir, for once, got to go late game. He ended up like 7-8-0 and just carried the team fights because Roccat did absolutely nothing in the mid game, and they just allowed elements to do whatever they want.
Yeah, and a huge problem with Vlad as well. Like, when he's behind, he's kind of like, meh. But when Vlad gets ahead, he's like unkillable, and he will also one-shot you. So it was like a huge problem. I think it's almost impossible to lose with a fed Vlad.
And I think, you know, not only misplaying the power timings of Rockat's comp yesterday, just the fact that they even tried to, you know, play late game and not be proactive at all. Yes, they had a sub. Yes, they have to adjust to an AD carry who, you know, is on the squad. But I think if they give SK the same time, they may face similar things. But both of these teams have shown a lot of decision-making errors as the weeks have rolled on.
And it's just so hard to predict which team shows up when Rocket plays here. They beat Origen last week. Great early game, you know, get a lead, snowball it from there. Then against Elements, they do absolutely nothing in the mid game. Versus SK here, I feel like Rocket can almost lose it, you know, for themselves. If they don't perform well enough, SK is going to take it.
Yeah, can't let that get in their heads. We'll see what happens. And as we check in with the caster for picks and bans, Jankos thinks SK has the tools to perform on the LCS stage. But according to him, the team has some work to do first.
About SK, I think they have the potential. Like, they are for sure not bottom 3 team. Like, they should be in playoffs at least, you know? They are a good team. They just need to find it. Kinda just sit down, play the game, and see how it goes. And I honestly think they will come back.
Perhaps his own team will come back.